click, reset, repeat, but without racking the slide. Matt from DryFireMag joins us to talk training hacks, gear that actually makes sense, and how to level up your trigger time without burning through your ammo on this week's The Gun Rack Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Gun Rack, SDI's firearms focused podcast. I'm Christian, your host, and I'm here with the co-host Steve Ross. Say hi, Steve.
Hey Christian, hey everybody.
How are things going this week?
Man, we are coming off trade show season. We have run into a lot of new companies that we've met. We have a lot of cool guests lined up, and we have a especially cool guest today.
Awesome. Well, yes, this guest is especially cool because he makes training safer, more fun, and affordable. Yeah, if you've ever dry fire practice in your home and had to re-click and re-click and re-click, it gets annoying sometimes, but this guy, Matt Hickman, has a solution for you with DryFireMags. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, Christian, thanks for having me on this morning. I'm doing great.
Good. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and the product.
Sure. So I'll start with the product first. What we do is we make trigger reset magazines. We don't believe racking the slide develops good muscle memory, good habits. Law enforcement's been dealing with this for years, and so our inventor came up with the idea to put a magazine into your pistol if it's semi-auto, and you can dry fire practice without having to rack the slide between presses. So that's our product in a nutshell. A bit about myself. I started in the firearms industry as a recruit at Law Enforcement Academy. I went through Santa Maria, Allen Hancock College, Law Enforcement Academy back in 2010, graduated in 2011, and worked for almost a year at Santa Maria PD in 2012. Fast forward, 5 years later, 2017, I'm in Idaho. I've got a bunch of kids. I'm nowhere near law enforcement, but I am in a Second Amendment friendly community. And when I was here, I found the company DryFireMag and learned a little bit about it. And it was an easy pitch for me to get involved. I believe in the product, believe in the vision. The company is really amazing as well. And we'll get into some more about that.
Well, tell us a little bit about that DryFireMag origin story. How did it get started, the background, and all that?
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. The original inventor, Stan Siegler, in 2012, so ironically, right around the time I'm going through Law Enforcement Academy, he's working as a pastor. His main passion is he's a Christian pastor, loves teaching at Bible colleges, helping develop small churches. And during all this, he went to Front Sight in Pahrump, Nevada. Went out there, trained, took some training for his Glock. And when he got finished with their training, they suggested if you want to get really good, all the guys who are serious about firearms training and prevent perishable skills from happening is to get a lot of dry fire practice in. So he goes home and he takes his Glock, and just like they say to do, rack the slide, press, rack the slide, press. And he looks at it and he's like, this is terrible. I'm going to have this horrible habit because every time I'm pulling the trigger, it's locking back and it's dead. I'm taking my, pardon your viewers, I'm taking my focus off the front sight every time I rack that slide. And so he has a background in engineering. He has a degree in engineering. And so in his off time, he tinkered down in his basement and eventually finally figured it out and ran downstairs and was telling his family, I did it. It's clicking. It's working. It's working. And so he didn't have a background in business, didn't have a background in running a company like this or growing something like this. And so for them, it was a very grassroots movement, very family oriented and very functional in purpose. He wanted it for himself, but then when he developed it and realized how useful it was going to be, it's like, I got to figure this out. Got to get this to the market. And so that's kind of the start of how it came to be.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think a lot of people forget that without intentional action, training all the time, you're guaranteed atrophy of a skill. Does that make sense? Like if you're not being purposeful with your training, it's easy. It's not going to grow, but it's also not going to, you're going to lose it over time. So I think that's a very important part for, training, education. It is something you have to be doing purposefully and regularly.
So how does it work? How do the DryFireMag Yeah. So, like, since let's take a step back. Explain to our viewers, what you should be doing, how you should be training with DryFireMag.
Sure, and I'll pull back the curtain on and show you guys, because you guys got people that are basically working to become engineers in the field anyway. So I'll show how it works. We do have a patent on it, so I'm not worried about that either. You guys can see how it works. The purpose of it and the use of it. So normally you get that dead trigger every time you pull your trigger, right? So we set our slide once, take our DryFireMag, stick it in. No more racking the slide between presses. So you can practice sighting in, get good double tap action while focusing on your front sight. Obviously, I'm not for the camera, but if I'm not paying attention, you can see that movement. The whole point of being accurate when you're shooting is having a slow, steady squeeze with minimal movement on your front sight. So for anybody who's not aware of the value of dry fire practice, there's actually some misconception. Some people believe that recoil management is a part of accuracy, and it is not. The point where you hear that gun click is the moment that your accuracy translates from your steady hold to where it ends up on paper or on your target that you're firing at. Recoil management is an important skill, but it has no bearing on where you're going to hit. You pull, when that click happens, that's a moment, that's an instantaneous moment before the explosion in your hand, and that's going to determine where you hit. So the dry fire practice using a mag like this is really helpful for getting a lot of reps in smoothly and without developing bad habits.
What modifications are you having to make to your firearm?
0.
Love it.
This is a stock Glock 21 Gen 4. Firing pin still intact. The only thing that shows up when you're using this is the first pull is always a little bit heavier because you're using the firing pin in this, and you're using the internals of the DryFireMag. The DryFireMag simulates the feel and pull weight of the trigger reset. So your first pull, this one is twice as heavy because I'm dealing with both the mag and the firing pin inside. After that, this is strictly the DryFireMag providing the pull weight, wall, brake, and the reset as it comes back forward.
That's awesome.
And I did tell you I was going to show you how it worked. So I'll go ahead and pull the slide off this one. I'm going to go down to a Glock 17 here, pull this thing off. Whoops.
Does it work? Let's see.
So here's a slide stripped Glock 17. I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger shoe forward, and you're going to see, I'll have to rotate it this way since it's flipped. You can see the trigger bar here. Stick my magazine inside, and you can see how the lever is riding this curved portion of the trigger bar back here. As you pull on our trigger, the trigger bar is riding, and it's resetting. It's preventing the trigger bar from going back far enough that it locks completely to the rear. The normal travel of the trigger bar, go back there and not return. And so that's the gist of how we interact with it. All of our dry fire mags rely on the internal parts respective to their pistol. So we have to engineer a different style of dry fire mag for every pistol based on the moving parts inside. It's not necessarily always the trigger bar either that's actuating our mag. So that's a little bit about how it works.
And it works only with striker fired?
Currently, yes. We do have requests from folks from Staccato, CZ. In fact, we're looking at a CZ Shadow 2 model hopefully soon, doing some research on it. I should be careful how I word that because our followers are very invested in getting our products, and if I use the wrong phrasing, they'll expect it out next week.
Exactly.
We're looking at developing for that.
So
but yes,
take us inside dry fire. What's the team like there? Like, how do you guys attack the engineering side of it, knowing it's going to be put into all these different platforms?
Well, it's been a process. We're developing as a company a lot. I mean, over the last 4 years, actually over the last 8 years, I started in 2017 with them, and it went from in-house engineering to now we have a full wing of different departments. Engineering has its own department now. We have a fellow that we contract with, and he's heading that up and working closely with our CEO for engineering products. I'm also involved a little bit with that. Our tech support head and myself also interact with the engineering team to do testing just to make sure we can get it working, or if we can break it, before we send it out to the market. We do a little bit of T&E work as well with our affiliate programs, send products out to them and see if they find things that we miss. Because one of the things, especially with the SIG P320 launch, we found something that was pretty surprising to us when we sent that out to market. We had worked with a handful of pistols, 5 pistols, and we hadn't even known about the voluntary upgrade program at that point. So we send that out, and we're interacting with parts on the back of the FCU right around that sear housing area. And the new sear housing upgrade blocked that. So anyway, we had to, now we're a lot more aggressive about researching, okay, what iterations have you done with your pistols? Try to get 100 of them in front of us. As many we can get in front of us to do our testing with, we want to test it as much as possible with as many different iterations of the firearms as possible. But yeah, we have a lot more involvement now from our engineering team specifically on this. As far as development, but we do try to get it in front of as many different hands as possible and get as many thoughts in there for our head engineer to mull over.
What does the background experiences look like for your engineers? Who are you inviting to bring in to be a part of your company to do these tests?
I actually don't know too much about Gabe, our engineer out of Seattle. The fellow's great, though. I mean, we take him with us to trade shows. We encourage, get involved in firearms training, go to a local range and actually shoot. We want people in our industry that are working with us that are involved in firearms. I mean, it doesn't make sense to hire somebody that's not invested in the field, doesn't shoot, so they don't appreciate the value of it. And so I think that's a really important element, and Gabe's our guy for that.
It does help when you love firearms in part of this industry. It just is a natural fit.
So when you guys are at the trade show, what's traffic like? What are the most asked questions? What are people looking for?
Oh man, what's the most asked question? If I say the wrong answer here, I'm going to get attacked by our fanboys again, because somebody's going to say, we want a Springfield Echelon mag. Oh, we want a Walther PDP mag. We want a 2011 mag. Oftentimes the reactions are really amazing. People come up and we solicit quite a bit. One of the things that we do to try and really differentiate ourselves at trade shows, you walk by booths and sometimes people are very, what's the word I should use? Mild or just kind of static standing there. We want to be very dynamic. We want to be bringing people in, say, hey, have you tried this? Put this in your hand and pull the trigger. Try this after we show them it's clear too. But we want you to put your hands on this and try this. And reactions are usually, wow. From people who actually shoot, the response is immediately wow, because they know the value. They know that they've been racking the slide, or they've been having to use an airsoft gun or a CO2 gun, or some sort of 22's equivalent in order to get that practice in. And this just, for them, it's a game changer. Oftentimes a very common expression that we hear is, this is a game changer, from people. And so feedback is usually very positive. It's only mild from people who don't shoot. Usually those people are not very excited, not too enthused about it. Rarely we'll get somebody who come up and says, well, I don't want to shoot unless I'm actually shooting live rounds. There's no point in dry fire practice. And my testimony from being a law enforcement officer is that advice would have failed me. I actually was going to fail. But that's another tangent that I get into. But dry fire saved me when I was going through law enforcement training. Anyway, but our response is usually very positive at trade shows.
Good. Well, as a pretty bad shooter myself, utilizing dry fire practice has helped me a bunch, but I still have got ways to go. Do you encourage utilizing it with other products that are out there, like laser sight trainings and things like that?
Absolutely. I would call it. Let me see how to phrase this. I'd say yes. However, most of the value in your training is going to come from strictly a basic device. The laser training it's great for people, especially if you're looking for validation. As a new shooter, especially, you want to have validation. You want to know that where I was squeezing, that's where I'm hitting. That's where, products like Mantis X is an amazing tool. I don't know if you're familiar with their product, the sensor system and the built-in coach. The trouble with that and the trouble with the basic DryFireMag is you don't have that validation. And so Mantis did a good job. They came out with a Laser Academy, and we're iterating as well. We partnered with Laser Ammo, so we have that option now with our DryFireMag. However, anybody who's serious about training with us, the value is in the basic trigger squeeze and hard focus on the front sight or red dot of your optic. But yes, the short answer is yes. I would encourage them to invest in those systems, especially if you want to keep dry fire fresh and engaging. It's very difficult to do that, especially when you're not getting the feedback from where you're pulling the trigger.
Do most people end up having more than one DryFireMag? Are you find that your customers are buying it for multiple platforms, or are you saying like, hey, at least start with what you're carrying every day and then work your way up?
Yes, very often we have customers. They're like, "Hey, I've got my Sig P320. When's my 365 version coming out?" Because I mean, for most of us, anybody who's been in the dry fire, or excuse me, in the firearms world for a long time, knows your range gun is not always going to be the same as your EDC. And it's good to have, go-betweens, in-betweens, hiking gun, range gun, deep concealment gun. And so, especially for guns that you don't shoot as often, a 365 is a really good example. It's not really a range gun. It can be used as a range gun, but typically it's a much better concealment pistol. And so having a dry fire mag for that is excellent. However, having one for your range gun and your EDC, it's a smart thing to do.
And have you done any studies of how long after purchase do I end up playing John Wick around my house, just shooting at imaginary villains? No, just kidding. So you told us, you guys are actively trying to grow and get brand awareness for dry fire. What are you guys doing on that front?
Yeah, that's been a challenging one. We recently, in the last year, hired a full-time sales team. So we do have people that are working full-time to engage in the industry. And a mission of ours, especially in the last 2 years, has been to engage with law enforcement communities, departments, sheriff's office. And so our mission of late with that is to get a standard dry fire mag in the hands of every deputy and every officer out there. We think that the value for them especially is it's worth it, especially for them, because they're going to be in a position more likely to have to use a firearm. And so having good training, good quality training is essential for them.
Yeah. And being a company in the firearms industry, what's your favorite aspect of what we do?
Well, for me personally, I get to buy a bunch of guns because John will message me and say, "Hey, we're working on a Walther mag next." And so I'm like, "Oh, you mean I got to buy one of these?" Yes. So
it's for research. I need another one.
It's for research. It's for research. Honey, don't freak out about our finances.
PDP next? Is that what we're saying? So
yeah, if you like. This is a sample version of it. This is not the final. It's got stickers and funny things on it. But yeah, the Walther PDP, and this will also work in the Canic series.
For your mags, do they have any weight to them? Do they feel like a loaded or unloaded mag, or somewhere in between?
I would say somewhere in between. We do add steel weights to the inside, but they're polymer shells on the outside, where most magazines are steel, and there's just there's no comparison to a loaded mag versus this. And because of our actuating parts inside there, it's hard to fill up all the space with heavy stuff. But we get that. We want it to be heavy. And the other thing we're working for with our engineering on all mags going forward is the ability for them to drop free on that. Traditionally, our mags have been the sort that we have to press the mag and pull. And so expectation has been, we've had to train that into folks. And some people don't want that. And that's understandable because that's not what a real mag does. So starting with the 365 mag, we made it so that you can press the mag release and it'll drop. And nice. So it's got a spring-loaded system to push that out. So we're trying to make sure that every iteration going forward is as close to a realistic experience as possible. So that extraction, being able to press the button, maybe do your flick of the wrist to get your mag go out. But yeah, the weight is not exactly the same.
So how do you gamify this? Have people who are actual dry firing practice, obviously it's a serious thing, but you want to have some fun with it. Are there drills that you suggest that people should use or do? There's
lots of different ways to be creative. I think the best way, if you want to gamify it, is going to be to get a smart mag and laser. Pairing that with, there are so many different systems out there. If you want the best, though, in my opinion, the smokeless range from Laser Ammo. It's just fantastic. I don't know if you guys saw it when we were running it at the booth at the NRA, but it's got just so many different options. You can go between things like arcade games. It has you on rails where you're moving around and having to address threats, and many of them setups that you have to do multiple taps, and you don't know how many hits the target will take before it goes down. You can set up virtual ranges, paper ranges, where you set targets out, and then you put your grouping on it, and you can see your grouping as you're dry firing. They have other speed drills, like 6-plate drills, where you set up steel. You hear the steel as you're shooting. You can set up USPSA, IPSC courses on it, and that starts at $600. I mean, the smokeless range system. Pair that with a smart mag and laser from us at 300, and for under 1,000, you have a setup that used to be 40, 50 grand, not 20 years ago.
That's just a
Yeah,
small
I've been
investment compared to a couple of visits to the range for a lot of shooters.
Yeah, at what is it, 22 cents a round for 9 mil these days? Am I
Been
on
way
close to
higher,
that?
and it could go back up again.
And if you're adding a club membership to that, or if you're just, taking a couple buddies at, $25 an hour per person and then just running through ammo, you're just going to keep blowing through money, blowing through money, blowing through money, and trying to do something you should be doing is training.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
having fun with it. I mean, I think, Steve, we need to expense one of those so I can try it out just for research
Just one?
purposes. Or two. I mean, you can have one, I can have one. Let's just move in together. Is that weird?
We
No.
just come best
Okay.
friends.
Another suggestion for you: have you guys ever heard of the Hard to Kill YouTube channel? Have you guys seen
Yeah,
that?
No.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, he does some good work. A couple years ago, he did a video demonstrating the Coolfire laser trainer paired with the IMETS targets from laser ammo. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's another offering from laser ammo. It also works with our system where you can set up targets around your house. So if you wanted to move around your house, have a buddy set up targets somewhere in your house, set a timer outside your house, and have him go in and clear the whole house as fast as he can.
That's
Um,
what I said. We all want to be John Wick at home. Okay.
yeah, and you could do that now.
Just
I
warn
mean,
the kids.
it's great because, I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody should go to the gun range and shoot with live ammo. It's a lot of fun. I love to do it. But man, in addition to paying for the ammo, it's not the easiest thing to pack all your stuff up, drive to the range. Man, is it busy today? Do I got to wait in line? Do I need to buy something more when I get there? What did I forget? Versus training at home, man, pick it up whenever you need to. It should be on your side all the time. You're just walking around the house, right?
Yeah. And another thought people don't often consider is cleaning your gun after your visit to the range.
yeah.
If you're serious about it, you need to clean your gun after the range. And with dry fire practice, you don't have to do that either.
I always forget to clean my guns.
I know.
I don't
I talk
forget.
as if I'm on a pedestal. I'm guilty too.
Yeah. Now, I live in the desert. So when it is 120 degrees out, me and my buddies will still go out at 7 in the morning once our range opens up, shoot for an hour, hour and a half, and then go to work. But it's still over 100 degrees here during the summer at 7 o'clock in the morning. So if I
Wow.
could just get up and then, either have the, arcadey, shooty stuff, have some fun, wake me up with my coffee, or set targets around the house in the morning, I would much prefer that in my air conditioned home than going out into the desert and shooting in 100 degrees.
You don't even have to put shoes on. How about that?
All right. Yeah. Because, if a bad guy comes in, you're not putting your shoes on. You're just
No.
you're getting ready to go. Cool. Well, what's next for DryFireMag? Tell us what the future holds.
Yeah, so a couple of different things that have been in the works for us. We want to get the Walther PDP and Canic mag out, but that's just on the product end. What we are looking at as a company is where do we go now as far as offering more dry fire solutions than just products. And so something we've been talking about internally is maybe we should start looking at getting involved in training people in how to dry fire well. Because right now we're handing people the tools, but we're not necessarily handing them the programming to go along with that training. And that makes sense to me. I mean, not everybody, for me, it was automatic. I went through law enforcement academy. And so I was like, okay, I know what I need to do. I've got these drills that I would work and get my lateral movement, get my 5-step draw in, but that's not going to be there for everybody. So that's something we're talking about internally and exploring the idea of, because I think that would go hand in hand with our product well.
Matt, like SDI, or gunsmithing is a very hands-on activity. We've figured out ways to do it online, remotely, but you're still doing it hands-on. But I know for a fact, being on the marketing side of SDI, it's not easy to explain to people how you can do something that's hands-on, but you're doing it remotely. Same with your product. It's a very tactile feeling of running through the training for the motions. How have you found that to educate people that want maybe be interested in your training? How do you teach them how it works, and what works messaging wise for you to explain what DryFireMag is?
Yeah, so It depends. I mean, it's going to vary. I mean, most of the time my interactions with social media are limited because I do our Instagram, our Facebook, our X. The interactions there are limited. Most of the time, my conversations at trade show are probably going to be more along the lines of what you're asking about. Talking about how you're incorporating your draw, how you're acquiring your front sight, your movement, your after actions, your assessment. I think a layered approach is really important, and having the dry fire mag alone is not enough. I mean, we were talking earlier about recoil management and temperatures, 100 degrees. What's your environment like? What's your setting? And having a layered approach. Are you prepared to do recoil management? And so I think it's really important, in addition to doing your dry fire practice inside the comfort of your home, get outside the house, practice in your local environment, your local climate, so your senses aren't overloaded or shocked when you get into it. I think a word that's often thrown around in law enforcement is inoculation. I mean, if you're stress inoculation. So if you're in an environment where you're comfortable with what you're doing, that's going to be better. So in addition to dry fire practice, I think it's really important to have good stance, good grip, and the only real way to practice that right now is going to be with live fire for recoil management. There are some, like the Cool Fire Trainer's a good start in that direction. It's not quite strong as your actual firearm when you're using those rounds in there, especially if you've got a heavier mixture in your bullet. But I think a layered approach is really important. We need a holistic view on how we're doing firearms training, including our draw, including uncomfortable positions or less likely attire, like if you're in your home. So I think there's a whole host of things to talk about in there, and it's really important to think of things as far as training in layers and not training in a one-dimensional manner.
Is that something you guys are also putting out as resources? Like, hey, you now own a dry fire, or are you guys giving some training tips of how to use it?
We're currently not, but that's been the focus of the last couple months, especially, and we're talking about that and talking about the idea of going into that field and maybe partnering with some people like qualified trainers out there and having them do the work, or maybe get our own training involved. But that's something that I think would be really helpful, and it's something we are exploring because I think it would be a good service and pair well.
Okay, and to follow up to Christian's questions, like the type of questions you guys get at trade shows, what are some misconceptions that you get asked about of what it can or maybe can't do?
Right, that's a fair point. So one of the things that's really important to recognize is that this is a simulated trigger feel. So the way this feels with the striker in here is it's a different sensation. We do our best to get our mags to feel as close as possible. We test them with pull weight. We set the break point to match the same point where your gun clicks. However, the feel is always going to be slightly different. The weight of the magazine, you brought up that question earlier, that's going to be slightly different. The extraction of the magazine, especially for our legacy mags that we've had out for years, you're going to have to get in the habit of extracting. And that does translate to real range habits. I'm at the range. I'm one of the only people when I go train at our local range that out of habit, every time I finish and I'm like, okay, I got to change mags now. I'm out of bullets. I see that slide lock to the rear. I tilt and I actually extract because I've been building dry fire mags for years. So I test these things, and I've done so many reps of, okay, checking the mag, extract. And so I have that built in. So that's a fair expectation, and that's a reasonable criticism of us, and that's something we are working on addressing going forward, is that extraction issue. But yes, the sensation of the mag is important as far as expectations. It is a pretty good simulated trigger, though. Pretty darn good.
Yes. Out of experience, being at the trade shows and trying them out, definitely something worth getting, especially if you're serious about training. Now, what advice would you have for our students here at SDI, wanting to become gunsmiths, doing some product development, engineering, within the firearms industry?
Yeah. Don't be afraid to try something. That's going to be the first thing. I mean, with Stan's background, he had to figure out everything as he went along. There were two things foundational, actually three things, I'll say three things foundational to their business to begin with. First, for them, it's a ministry. That's not going to be true for all your students, but for them, Jesus is Lord. And they wanted everything they do to be centered around that, working in tandem with that. So every one of our products goes out with a gospel tract. I know that's not true for everybody, but I think for people who are starting out, try to get this so that it integrates well with your life, something that goes along with your sense of purpose. And for us, that's Christ. The second thing is made in America entirely for us. That's a really important thing to us. I mean, we wanted, I mean, even though it's harder, I mean, we started in 2012 and we've been made in America only since 2012, since before tariffs were saying, oh, you're just a patriotic poser. No, for us, it didn't change with administrations. To us, that's something we want to invest in our communities. We want to invest in our local communities, even though it's more expensive, even though it's harder. So for us, that's important. The third thing is we did it without debt. That was a lot slower, and that's something that's a challenging thing to do. There's definitely an argument that we could have moved much more explosively and made a big splash that way, but we did it without debt. And so it's going to depend on your students' preferences, if they're risk averse or if they want to do things. But my advice would be try something. Don't be so afraid to not try something. If you don't try something, you're always going to fail. If you try something, maybe half the time you'll succeed, but we will be willing to try something. Yeah, and the other thing that's kind of interesting, just as an idea about our business structure, almost all the people who work for our company are contractors. It's kind of modeled after World War II Japanese business model where all the work gets sent out to people's homes. So, for example, this is in my home right now. I build DryFireMags in my home. And so it's kind of a neat idea in that it's something that I can do. The way their company was structured is Stan set it up so somebody like me could take the products home, build them here, and then submit them to our quality control guy, and it goes back to shipping from there. And so that's kind of an interesting business model that you don't have a building, you don't have employees, you don't have the payroll side of things. People are responsible for their own business structure with things, but just kind of a fun thought. It's okay to go outside the box, especially for people who are, if you're a gunsmith and you're looking to build a business, think outside the box. Don't think, okay, I got to do it exactly the way this other company did it. Yeah, that's probably enough, or I'll start rambling and getting crazy there.
That's
I'm already a
advice.
little rambling.
Get out and try something. And if you're not successful the first time, don't worry, you're in good company. There's a lot of people that have failed many, many times until they get it right.
Yeah. You miss 100% of shots you don't take.
Absolutely.
So that's really insightful, man. Christian,
I just made that up.
That's really
I
good.
think. Yeah. So,
well, we're glad to introduce you to SDI students. I do have a piece of, information that's just come out. DryFire is now going to be on our student special offers page. So if you're a student or graduate of SDI, you could go check out DryFireMag.com and get a good discount with your SDI student discount code that you guys are very generously provided to us. Thank you very much.
No problem at all.
Steve, you have anything else before we jump into Quickfires?
No, let's do it.
Okay.
My favorite part.
So we've got SDI Quickfires. I've got a branded card here because I'm official. So, Matt, are you ready?
Let's go.
All right. Iron sights or red dots?
Red dot.
Okay. What's one drill that you should master?
Bill drill.
Okay. More stressful, Saturday full at the trade show or putting out a new design?
Putting out a new design.
Most creative user feedback, and creative in quotes.
You got me.
Okay.
Most creative user feedback, man.
Do you get any like bad comments, like bad X tweets things? Any?
No. Here's a good one. Use a zip tie. Most creative user comments. Use a zip tie for DryFire instead of using a DryFireMag. That's
How does that work?
But probably not the best advice.
No, it's creative though.
All right. And if you weren't in the firearms industry, what would you be doing?
I would be doing the same thing I'm doing right now in tandem with it. I run a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school.
Yeah, you're deadly on all fronts.
I'm busy.
All right. Well, any questions for us, Matt? You know, I know it usually goes one way, but we're open to conversation and stuff like that. So,
sure. So, Sonoran Desert Institute. How did this thing come to be? What's the history? I guess I could have looked that up on your website, but I'm curious.
Yeah, so SDI definitely started way before Christian and I were there. Christian and I are, of course, on the marketing side, but SDI originally started as a gunsmithing correspondence school almost 25 years ago, and it's evolved over then. So kind of like how you're saying that you guys were doing Made in America before it was cool, we were doing online school before it was cool, before COVID and all those things. With remote education as convenient and as flexible and as awesome as it is, SDI is going all in on it. So now we've grown to just having correspondence to now we're today have 3 different gunsmithing related programs, all the way up to a certificate to associates of science degrees. That's even expanded into drone programs. The cool thing about SDI is that it's 100% online. All the tools, material, your education, it's provided through an online format, but the tools, materials, you get to work on hands-on projects at home. So you still got to do hands-on, even though it's remote.
That about sums it up. It's, we try to find those niches that we're interested in and that we enjoy, and then spread it out there so people can learn. Because if you can't take the time to move out of your city, out of your state to one of the ground campus gunsmithing schools, we're that alternative. We teach in all 50 states. And so it's where you are and where you want to get your education. So
That's pretty awesome. I think you guys are probably on the cutting edge in that sense. I think more and more people should go online. I mean, in my position, I wouldn't be able to move. I've got 4 kids. I'm very rooted in where I'm at. And for me to try and move to a traditional campus, not happening. It's just, there's too many things that would have to shift. But an online education, that's appealing. That's really cool.
Yeah, we hear that all the time. And, it's not impossible to learn online. It's not for everybody. But we have figured out how to make it work. And our students that give 100% dedication to going to SDI and wanting to better themselves and get the education, I hear stories over and over again of how it works for them. They are able to make it fit in their lives and are able to enter into the firearms industry, open up a business, develop a new skill they never had before. It's very cool to hear those stories.
Yeah. And just like with training, you get out what you put in. So, if you're not putting in that dry fire practice, range practice, at home scenarios practice, then, what are you doing? So, but Matt, thank you so much for your time today. DryFireMag, tell us how we can follow you on socials. Where do we get DryFireMags? All that kind of stuff.
Sure. So we are on Instagram, X, and YouTube at the moment. Also got a Rumble presence, and I think we have a Truth Social somewhere. I haven't used it in a little while. But yeah, we're on all those. The main one that is going to be the easiest way if you want to get a hold of me or see things is on Instagram. I personally curate our Instagram. I try to answer our messages as fast as possible, usually within an hour. So that's one of the best ways. Also, our website, www.dryfiremag.com. It's about to have an overhaul launch probably in the next 3 or 4 days, but there's a subscription there as well. If you want to be notified of new products, things coming out, you can sign up on there. It's probably not a bad idea since I post about it as well on Instagram, but I never know how badly my posts are going to be censored these days. So going to dryfiremag.com and subscribing is probably the safest option to make sure you're in the know with our new products coming out. And
all
that's
right,
also
and
where
then
you buy them.
Yep, there you go. So, and then if you're at one of the big trade shows, come out, try to find Matt and try it out for yourself as well. So, all right. Well, that's been this week's episode of The Gun Rack. Matt, again, thank you. For Steve, I've been Christian. And if you want to learn more about our programs here at SDI, go to sdi.edu, hit request info, talk to admissions rep, and get started. We'll talk to you soon. See you next week, everybody.
Bye.
Everybody, wave bye. Wave bye.
Bye.